Hi, Jaime Sabbatini here for the Thursday live show. Thank you for coming. Today's topic is going to be how to stay focused in chaos. I wanted to share this with you because this is a self-created 3-step plan that I call Strategy Smart that I created a long time ago, and I've been using it for years, so I know it works. So I wanted to share it with everybody, so this way, if you like it and you think it might work for you, you can bring it into your life too. But before I do, I just wanted to tell you that we meet here live. During the summertime, we've been meeting at 7:35 a.m. and I've been using Facebook as my platform. So if you would like to be notified when we go live, just click on the live notifications, and then they'll tell you when we go live. During our time, we talk about how-to tips to navigate life better. And all of these shows are recorded and posted on my website, which is www.coachtasticnow.com, and just go right into the Learning Center, and they're all right there. So if you miss any or you want to watch a replay, you can find them all right there. So today's topic, what is today's topic? How to stay focused in the chaos. What made me think to bring up this topic to all of you was a calamity of events that had happened last week, and that's why I wasn't here last week. And it was just so much that I took some notes on what had taken place and kind of use it as an example of how to use this strategy in the chaos. But the examples I'm going to give you were kind of significant, but you can use this strategy in everyday decision making, as I do all of the time. So last week, a big storm came through my community and wiped out all of our power. Now, it affected different people in the community in different ways, and we kind of didn't know how it affected people until we were actually going through it, and maybe even after the fact. Some people had no electricity, some people had no electricity and no water. For us, it basically wiped out every basic essential that you can think of. So speaking of chaos, there was a lot of chaos and a lot of navigating in order to get through all of it calmly. So just to kind of give you an idea, I have some notes here that I took because, again, the list just got too long. So no water. With no electricity, it cannot run a pump to run a well, so there's no water. So that kind of got interesting because if you really think about it, no water means no toilets. So learning to flush manually with buckets filled up from a neighbor's hose was interesting. And no water also meant not being able to shower. And in the beginning of the week, it wasn't so bad. The weather was kind of cool. But as the week went on, boy, it got sticky and it got muggy. So showering became an issue. No water to clean, like the pots and the pans for any cooking that you may have done or are going to do. So having to fill a clean pot and a soapy pot from a neighbor's hose, took some strategy in order to keep that cycle going. No lights. During the daytime, it was fine. And the first couple of nights, having no lights was kind of fun, flashlights and candles. But after a couple of days, when you're getting into day 3 and day 4, and you basically feel like you're walking around with your eyes shut, make you feel like you're going a little crazy at some point. Teeth brushing got kind of interesting. Having to come up with a strategy to brush your teeth with limited water. We actually went and bought, some store-bought water, and came up with a process of, filling the cup and putting the toothpaste on the toothbrush and dipping it in the water, brush, and then taking a sip of the clean water and then spitting that into the sink. And of course, you have to strategically spit that on the toothpaste that landed on the sink, so that this way you can push that down the sink at the same time. And then using that water now and cleaning your toothbrush in that, and then taking that dirty water and swishing the rest of the toothpaste down. So we did it, but it took some strategy. Air conditioning, no air conditioning. And when you're used to air conditioning, to have no air conditioning, you notice it when it starts to get hot. The refrigerator got quite interesting because as long as you didn't open it, it was okay for a couple of days. But then again, on let's call it day 2, when the ice starts dripping from the freezer and the ice cream looks like milk, you know you have a little bit of an issue going on. So we had to actually move the refrigerator items into the freezer, because the freezer became the refrigerator, and move the freezer items into an ice bucket, which all the dripping ice got bagged and put into that, until we could move our downstairs refrigerator on an appliance mover upstairs into the garage and hook up into a neighbor's generator and get that refrigerator going. But of course, in the meantime, the carpet got wrecked and some things along the way. But we did it, right? We did it. Cooking was interesting. Although we have a gas stove that allowed us to cook, we still needed to get it going. So we learned how to light that stove with a lighter and get some cooking, and cook by flashlight and candlelight. So that was an experience as well. So amongst all of this, we've got smoke detectors that are beeping because batteries are going dead and the electricity wasn't, connected anymore. So there was quite a number of things. So finally on day 3, we were able to borrow someone's generator and get a couple of lights on, and get a couple of lights on. Oh, and get a fan going. So this way we were able to get some relief during this. And then day 4, yay, the power came back on. And what happens, we turn on the water, and so much water came through at one time that it burst the pipe in the basement, and now we have a flood on the floor. So the reason why I explain all this is, number 1, it's funny to reminisce. But number 2, it just shows you chaos, chaos that just went on in my own personal life, and how I can use this to demonstrate how I applied this new this strategy that I've had all my life to this situation. So let's go ahead and let's start breaking this down. So we're going to talk about it in 3 parts, because my strategy smart plan is in 3 sections. The first one is assess, the second one is plan, and the third one is go. So let's start by talking about assess. So if we look at the definition of assess, it's a verb. So we already know that in the middle of chaos, we have something that we can go to that's going to put us into action. And if you're someone who freezes under the stress, or someone who panics and just starts yelling, and you really have no idea what's coming out of your mouth, you just know that there's sound coming out of your mouth, this will give you something that's much more focused and much more strategic that will be coming out of your mouth once it starts coming out. So if we look at the definition of assess, and I looked it up, so I'm actually going to read what the Webster's Dictionary definition is. It's when we evaluate, calculate, or estimate the price or value of, and set the value at a specified level. So let's break that down. So if we're going to assess something and we're going to evaluate it, the first thing we need to do is to be aware and observe. So if we start having things come out of our mouth and we have not gone into this space of looking around and seeing what's going on, then how can we have anything that's going to come out of our mouth be productive, right? So that's the first thing. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, so I can make just a quick mental observation and a mental evaluation of what's going on. But as a beginner, I would suggest that you write this down as you're observing what's going on. And this could be in any situation. It doesn't need to be in like a big emergency or a big situation like I described last week. This could be just like you're at the food store, or you're dealing with a work-related situation, or you're dealing with a family situation, or raising children. Really like observe what's going on and become aware. And in the beginning, take notes of what's going on, all right? The second step in assess is to calculate. And when we think about calculation, we immediately think mathematically, numbers. Well, our brain is programmed to be logical. So when we talk about calculating, we're talking about the logical part of our brain. So once we've become aware and we started observing, then our brain can start doing some calculations. This is the logical mind starting to process. After that, we can move into estimating. Now, estimating, in order to be able to estimate, we need to be clear on what our values are. And if you go back to the first show number 1, how to make decisions with confidence, we talked about identifying what your values are. And this is super important, because if you're going to make an estimation, and we're going to follow this definition we have right here, if you're going to set the value at a specified level, you need some benchmark. So for me, and especially in this particular example last week, values were super important, and we went down to the basic survival values: safety, life, food, cleanliness. So there were some decisions that were made based on basic level life decisions. So I would suggest, if you have the time, go back and watch show number 1. So this way you can really get tuned into what your values are. So this way, when you do the estimating, you can kind of compare against those. So depending on the type of chaos that you're dealing with will drive those values. Now, I've used this process in many of situations, like I said, in everyday situations, just with family raising and relationships and work-related situations. But I've also used this process in medical emergencies where I've had to really stay focused and not let panic take over. So the reason why this first step is so important is because it allows you to stay focused on the facts and not get caught up in the fears of what your mind might be telling you of what could be happening, or the drama of what's happening. I mean, if it's a real big, medical emergency or a big situation, there's a lot of panic. So it allows you to stay focused in the situation. It also allows you to give you immediate perspective because you are focusing in on the facts. And while you might not have control over what was happening, now listen, last week, I had no control over the power. I had no control over the water. I had no control over the storm, but I had control over me, and I had control over the decisions that I was going to make and how it would affect the next moment and the next part of the experience that we were having. So it allowed me to have the sense of, knowing that I was doing something that was going to hopefully be helpful here and move us in a more positive direction, which definitely calmed my mind and allowed me to be able to think instead of just freeze. So there you have it. There is step 1, which is assess. Next week when we meet, we will talk about step 2, which is moving into the plan. And the following week, we will talk about step 3, which is all about go. So this week, as you move about, try to, do that, the evaluating part of assess, write down what you see, what you observe, what you become aware of, because this is critical. You cannot move to step 2 without step 1. So thank you so much. I hope that you found this helpful and relevant. If you liked it, please hit that like button below so I know you were here. And if you're not part of my subscriber community, you can go right to my website, which is listed at the bottom of this broadcast, and join my subscriber community, and I will let you know what the upcoming topic is. And if you miss it, the live show, I will send you the recording, so this way you can watch it at your convenience. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.